Hello and welcome back to what is part 4 of how to create an endless runner using Unity and C#. Today we're going to be covering a few different things. We're going to be covering multiple lives instead of just whenever you hit a block the player dies. We're going to be covering scoring, a screen that just shows the score when you die and prompts you to push a button to play again, as well as the canvas system that is inside of Unity. I just need to drink some water, sorry. So yeah, let's get started. Before we do any scripting today, we're going to want to set up our UI system and our HUD. So to begin with, we're going to want to resize our camera just by clicking on our camera and coming to the size, and we'll probably want it to be about half the size of what we currently have. So just set it to 2.5, and then we're going to come to our player and press W to move the position. And just move him down to the bottom of the world, and then we'll come back to our camera and we'll make it so it's just only viewing the bit of world that we currently have. So yeah, now that we have all that set up and that's all looking good, we want to create a UI canvas. The canvas is something that is only inside of Unity, and it allows us, well, as far as I know, and it just allows us to not have any scripts to resize and reposition all of our HUD for different size screens. It will handle all of that for us as long as we set up all of the parts of our HUD correctly. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So we have our canvas. To begin with, we're going to want to add our sprites that we're going to use to represent our health. I think we'll give the player 3 health. So we'll go to UI, and we'll just add an image. It'll take a little bit, but there it is. We have our image. You can't see it right now, and that's because it's all the way over here. And as you can see, our canvas is all the way over here. And that's because at the moment, if we go to our canvas, you can see it's set to, the render mode is set to screen space overlay. And that will give you a point from what I think is the world space 0 outward, depending on the size that you have it set to. I think that's how it works, I'm not quite sure. But what we want it set to is screen space camera, and then we want to change the render camera to our main camera. Okay, and then as you'll see, that will change the render space to the size of our camera. We want to come to our image, let's move it into our scene, quickly come back to our canvas and come down to the canvas, and then, whoops, as you'll see in here, we have order and layer. Order and layer will just position it on the Z-axis, which is forwards and backwards, and we'll make it so that it's either in front or behind objects. 10 will put it in front of objects, 0 will put it behind, well, 9 will be behind 10, and 11 will be in front of 10, and so on. So we will set it to 10, and then we'll just come back to our image and go to red, that's going to be our health. And we're going to want to have 3 of these, so we'll just make 3 of them, and then just quickly we'll grab all 3 of them, and instead of having no sprite, we'll change that to the UI sprite just as a stand-in until we put some art in like we have with everything else. And then we're just going to want to rescale them by pressing R on the keyboard and just scaling them down, and then dragging them up into our top corner. Just for ease, we'll probably want to rename them. So this one here, the furthest to the right, we're going to want to go 1. Oops. Let's call that 1. This one we're going to want to call 2. And this one 3. That'll just help later when we're assigning it in the script. So now that we have them, I'll just show you quickly that if we come over in here and go to the different aspect ratio, they don't scale properly. They don't reposition, I mean. So to fix that, we just want to go to these, and instead of anchoring them in the center, we'll anchor them to the top right. And now if we come back into here, they will go up to the top. Cool. So now that we have our health set up, as far as graphically that is, we want to set up our scoring. So we'll come back to our canvas, create, UI, text, and we'll just call this, well, we'll just write in here, score, whoops, 0, 0, 0, and then we'll just rename it score up here. So now that we have our score, we'll just resize the text a little bit and then reposition it in the top left hand corner. And then again, we're going to want to re-anchor that, but this time to the top left. And that way if we change, it will be repositioned. Cool. That font is fine, but I think we'll put art in soon, so we'll just go ahead and change the font now. I'll show you how to do that. So we want to start by creating a new folder. We're going to call that fonts. This is really simple in Unity. We just want to open up that and then go to whatever browser you use and go to a good website for getting fonts. So I'm going to go to the font. The font's a really good website. It's free to use and you just need to make an account and you can download 100% free to use fonts. So the art style I'm thinking of using in this game in the end is going to be a pixel art style. So I'm going to look for a pixel font. So I'm just going to write pixel in the search and try and find one that's 100% free, like this one. But I want to find one that I like, so I like the look of this one. Download it, and then it will download as a zip file. So we just want to go to that file and then extract it. And then we want to go back to Unity and then go back to this file, not that one, I'm going to go into here and then just drag that, we don't need the readme, just drag that into our fonts. So now we have that, we can simply just go back to our score, where it says font, we can just go and we can choose any font. It's a little bit blurry at the moment, so we'll come over and if you click T, you can change the size of the box that the font will be viewed in, and we'll just size it up a bit. Whoops. Oh, well that looks pretty good at that size, so then we'll just go to R and scale it down and then reposition it. Have a look what that looks like in the other. Yep, that looks fine. So now that we have we have that set up, all we have to do now is the death screen and then we can do a little bit of scripting. So we just can copy this but then rename it to You Died. We'll reposition it somewhere in the center of the screen and then resize it. We get really big. And then instead of having score in here, we'll write You Died. And change the size of the font. As you can see, it screwed up our other bit of text up there, but we'll fix it up in 1 second. That's just because this is a copy of that and it's affecting it for some reason. I'm not sure why that is, but we'll just change the color of this quickly. And now before we go forwards, we'll just quickly fix up that by changing its font. Yeah, its font size that is. And then if we just come back down to here and click Create, UI, and a panel, which will give us a screen that is transparent. We want it to be above You Died, and we want You Died to be a child of it. This way, when we turn on and off the panel, we turn off that as well. We also want score to be a child of it, so that score, actually we don't want it to be a child of it, but we want it to be below it. So to do that, we need to take it out of there, close this, and then place it below it. And I'm not quite sure why that isn't working now. Canvas. Where did it go? if you press F, you'll go to its location, and you can see for some reason it's all the way over there. So we'll just reposition it. I have no idea why that happened. If anyone does, please let me know. But yeah, we'll reposition that. And then that should be fine. Let's just check that that's working still. That's still working. Who died isn't. So we'll go to who died, anchor, center. And now that should be working fine. Yeah, it's just a little bit big. So scale who died a little bit. Cool. And then we want to copy that. And then rename this just to restart. Because this is just going to prompt you to restart the game. And we'll just change this to press space to restart. So now we'll grab that, move it down, and then we just want to change that font size. Cool. So now that we have all of that, I think we're pretty good to start scripting. You might just change the transparency of that a little bit, and then yeah, we can start scripting. So let's start by going down to our scripts and clicking on our player script. And then obviously waiting for Visual Studio. So we're getting used to that. Yeah, when that's loading up, I'm gonna have to go and get a drink of water, so I'll be back with you in a sec. Okay, so I'm back. To begin with, so Visual Studio is opened and all that kind of stuff. We're going to have to add a new thing up the top here, where we have the using Unity engine and using Unity systems.collection. We can just copy this one and put it down here, and we want to change this over to .ui. What this here is, if you didn't know, is basically these are different scripts that will be loaded in this order at the top of our script. And we need these because basically Unity has heaps of stuff in the background that does heaps of the work for us with a lot of these words like collision 2D and vector 2D, all that vector 2. All of that stuff is defined in the background of Unity. And without these, it wouldn't know what it was because there wouldn't be a reference for it above them. So basically that adds them. And we need to add a new one, which is the UI system for Unity, and that's just going to allow us to play with text and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, now that we have that in, we can add some variables in there. We want to add them down here. So we want to start with just our text, which will be a public text. We'll just call that score. We're also going to need a public game object, which will be you died, which will obviously be our you died screen. Then we're going to need some stuff for our health, so we'll have a private int, which will be our health. And that will just be set to nothing for now. Actually, we'll set that to 3 up here just so we don't have to do it later. Then again, we're going to need some public game objects, and these will be for our different health sprites. So just copy that, paste it twice, change it to 3, 2. Clean this up a little bit, and then that should be all the variables we need in here. So now we can get started. We're going to need to add start function again. So to do that, we'll just add void start, the brackets. Start needs to have a capital S. And then we're also going to need an update as well as our fixed update, which will be doing all of our non-physics based stuff and just basically all of our UI stuff. So cool. Now we have both of them. We'll start off in our start. So when we start the game, we obviously don't want UDIED to be visible. So to do that, all we need to do is come to our start and go UDIED dot set active brackets false, and then end the line. So what set active does is it just turns the object on or off, like I was doing just a second ago. If I come to here and turn it on and off like this, that's basically all it does. So if we come back to our script, it takes in a bool, which is either true or false, and we're setting it to false. So with that, if we just save our script, Control S, we come back to Unity and wait for it to load, and once we get it to load, we should be able to not have the screen appear as long as we link it properly. So we need to come down to our player, because that's where we put it, and now you see we have all these things down here. So we want to start by just adding our health, just so Unity doesn't complain about that not being assigned. And for our UDIED, we'll add the entire panel. Now if we press play, UDIED should go invisible, but nothing else should. Waiting. Cool. So that's working. So now we can go back to our script, and we'll start adding in stuff for our health. The health is going to be a little bit of scripting, but it's going to be pretty repetitive, so we'll do a lot of copy and pasting. So to start off, we'll add our if statements for our different states of health. So we'll want to add a if health equals 3. Double equals means is a check to see if it equals what is on the right hand side. If it's 1 equals, then it will make it equal whatever is on the right hand side. Yeah, just so you know. So in there we want to have our health 1 dot set active brackets, and we'll go and fill these in a second, but let's copy that and change these over. So for this one, if it is 3, we obviously have all of our health, so we just want all these to be true. So we probably could have actually set them a second ago, but you know, hindsight. Cool. So that is if health is equal to 3. And then we want to do if health is equal to 2. So we'll just copy that, paste it under it, change it to 2, and then if it equals 2, we want to turn health 3 off, so false. And then again, if it equals 1, false. And then again, if it equals 0, everything false. So if it equals 0, the player has died. So to do that, we want to add an extra little bit of functionality. So we need an extra if statement, which is if, whoops, doesn't include brackets, health, whoops, just health without any numbers after it, is equal to or less than 0. We want to say UDIED dot set active equals true, and we're going to want to pause the game. To do this, we're going to use time.setTime. I mean, time scale. which will basically just allow us to change the value of time. At the default, time is set to 1. 0.5 would be half of the default time, so 0 is completely still. So we just want to stop the game when you die. And that should be everything we need in there. 1 second. Yeah, cool. So now that we have all of that, that's all good, but we still need a way of actually minusing our health if we do anything. Currently, the player just dies. That's no good. So instead of doing that, we want to come down to here and get rid of that, so the player no longer dies, because that was the line that was reloading the level. And we want to change this to health minus equals 1. And this will make it so every time we hit a death collider, the health will be minus by 1. And that's all we need there. But we also need a new void that we're going to add above it. This void's going to be a little bit different because it's going to be a public void. The reason for this is because we're going to need to be able to access it from another script. If it was just a normal void without public in front of it, it would be private and it would be confined only to the scope of this script. And the scope is just what it knows, basically. So if it just said void, it would only know what was inside of this script. But if it says public void, then it can get access to external information besides what is around it. So this one we're going to want to call score plus, because we're going to be using it to plus our score. And instead of just having brackets on the end, we're going to want to have an int, which will be new score. And that will just be equal to 1, and every time that we trigger this, we'll be plussing 1 to our new score, basically. So we'll add our brackets, and then in here, like I said, we want score. Did we add a score? It's a good question. Let's go and check that for a second. We didn't add a score, so we just want to add a public int score, and then we can come back down to, where was it, here, and then we can go score equals, score plus equals, because we want it to increase every time this is triggered, new score. And now every time that we call this, our score will be plus by whatever we put in here. I'll show you a little bit more of that in just 1 second. So now that we have all of that going, we can save this script and we can come over to our block delete script. Because in our block delete script, that's where we were checking if we have collided with the edge of one of our blocks, and if we have, we're deleting it. Another good purpose for checking if we've reached the edge of a block is to add 1 to our score, because we've passed a section. So that's what we're going to do. So this is pretty simple because of everything we had laid out here, and once I have all this done, I'll run you through it all quickly just so it's a little bit clearer. But all we need to do is on the 2D trigger exit 2D, on the trigger exit 2D, we just need to change it from only having that to having other dot get component triangle brackets player brackets dot score plus 1. And all this line does is says get the object get the object other, which is player in this instance, which is player, and if that's what I said, and get the component player, which is the script on inside of player, and get the function inside of that called plus score plus, sorry about that, and put 1 inside of it. So it gets the player, it gets the script on the player called player, and it gets score 1 and puts 1 into it. So if we come over to the script player and come down to score plus, you can see this is where we're putting the 1 in, and then down here the 1 gets plussed on top of our score. So yeah, we'll just save that quickly, and then I think that's all the scripting we need. We'll just check if that's running. If everything's working fine, I'll just run you through all that again quickly, just so everything's a little bit clearer. It's a little bit late. So yep, press play, and nothing is going to happen right now. So just before we test that, we'll come back into here, and we need one more line of code. Currently we're doing all of the calculations. We have our health. The health will be working fine, I'm pretty sure. Whenever we get hit, our health should be going down. But currently our score will not be displayed because we don't have any code to actually say to display our score. So in our update, just at the bottom, under the health equals, equals less than, is equal to or less than 0, we just want to add score in all capitals, dot text equals what are they called? Whatever those things are called. Score plus our score int. And what this does is basically says that our text that is score will be equal to the word score plus after it and a gap because because of what I just added then, whatever our int score is equal to. So that'll make a bit more sense in a second once I just come down to here. So in our player we have score here, which is as you can see here, score text, and that is equal to the word score and then score our actual score. So we'll come back over here and then change this to this bit of text, and now when we press play, this should go up and up and up depending on how many blocks are passed. So let's see. Yep. So now we have the score working, and as you can see, when I hit blocks, that works. When I die, the screen comes up. If I hit space, nothing happens. And that's because we haven't added that yet. So that might be the last thing we actually need to add in this, and that's not going to be very hard at all. So we want to come back to our player script, go to the top of our update, and in here all we need to add is another simple if statement, and this one is just going to be checking if we've pushed the button space. Also, if our health is equal to 0, just to make sure that we're not pushing the button space when we still have 2 health and restarting the game. So to do that, we just want if input, whoops, not int, input get key brackets key code. Why isn't that coming up? Key code dot. That's why, because it's not inside the brackets. Just fix that up quickly. I'm using a new keyboard and it is not the best. Key code, that dot's to that side. Dot space. And then we also want to be checking if health is equal to 0. And then in here, if all of that is happening, we want to set time dot time scale back to 1, so that the game's moving at a normal speed. And then this is where we're going to want to reload our level like we were doing before. So application.load, oops, not loaded level, application.load level, and again just level 0, and that should be everything we need. So let's come back over to the game and just have a quick look. Loading. Yeah. So let's see how that's going. Yeah, so everything's working normally. We got the score working. Got that loading down. Come into here, press space, the game starts again. Okay. The time did not get reset properly, so let's just have a look at that. Did Unity tell us anything about that? Nope. So let's have a look here. Time to scale. I'm not sure why that's happening. We might just wanna make health equal to 3 again and see what that does. So let's see. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's working. Cool. So let's just run through that get component again just quickly. So down here we have our public void. It's public so that it can be accessed by other scripts, and it's called score plus, and it takes in an int, and whoops, and then that int is plussed onto our score. So then if we come over to block delete, this would be our external script that it can access, and we have get component player, which is that script, and we're getting the score plus, and we're putting in 1. And so then when the 1 comes in, it gets plussed onto our score, and our score goes up. So yeah, that's basically it for that stuff. And we have all of our UI, which basically, like I said, allows us to change between the 2 different sizes without a problem. And yeah, everything is coming along pretty well. Next time we'll probably look into saving high scores and loading them, as well as a menu and maybe some extra art and all that kind of stuff. But I said that last time, so we'll have to see. So yeah, if you like the video, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or just want to ask about anything, just leave a comment and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.